So we have the Yankees up at the top. We saw the win total with the Yankees, right? I mean, this is always every year, right? 94, 95. The win totals next to them. And then we have in brackets, this is the odds to win the division. Now, I went into the prop shop and tried to find the best possible odds. So Yankees 94.5 for the win total, plus 115 to win the AL East. Use our prop shop, save you a lot of cash, save you a lot of time. The Blue Jays next at 90.5, plus 220 I'm seeing for them to win the division. The Rays at 88.5, plus 475. The Red Sox at 77.5, 20 to 1, and then the O's at 76.5 at 25 to 1. Let's just start with the Yankees. Like, we just talked about really good rotations. Dude, they got one. They got a really good rotation. And of course, we know about Judge and the historic season that he just had. Yankees, in your opinion, favored to win this division? You think it's right?
Yeah, I definitely think it's appropriate. I mean, honestly, it looked even better a couple weeks ago before they had to put Frankie Montas on the injured list with a shoulder that I think it's still an issue from last year. But the fact that he was their number 5 at that point is pretty sick. And their rotation is still really good. Right now, they have Cortez penciled in as the 4. Severino's back. Severino looked incredible towards the end of last year. He looked better than I think he ever has, even when he, before the injury. And if you look at some of the projections, they have Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon projected, I think it's 2 of the top 4 pitchers in baseball as far as steamer goes. So they have 2 legit studs. And, everyone wants to always give Garrett Cole crap and talk about how overrated he is. Yet the guy, like, pretty much every year you can pencil him in for like an ERA of like no higher than 3. And, give his 220 innings, his 32 starts, which, is pretty rare these days. I'm having an issue with the same thing, I guess, that kind of held the Yankees back last year, especially in the postseason, and it's their lineup. Like the bottom 3 of the order. I mean, even having they have Donaldson projected to hit 5th or 6th right now. I mean, he looks like he's pretty much done. His best highlights were hitting balls to the warning track and, pimping singles and flyouts from last year. So if anything, it's their lineup. It's their lineup that makes me nervous. But their pitching, I think they'll have one of the best rotations, probably the best rotation in baseball, and one of the best bullpens in baseball again.
Yeah, they got Gleyber Torres leading off right now, again, according to Fangraphs, and they got Donaldson in that 5 spot, which you alluded to, Harrison Bader, who was, he's not going to bring the same type of power that he did last year in the playoffs. I would relax with that. Aaron Hicks in there in the 7th spot. This is a guy that unfortunately hasn't been able to stay healthy, but you're right about Steamer. The strikeouts for Rodon and for Garrett Cole, like 482. Each of them over 230, right? Cole at 251 and Carlos at 231, and both of them plus 30 starts, and 199 the innings for Garrett Cole, 178 for Carlos Rodon. Like it's a pretty good 1-2 punch. I know you're a big fan of Nestor as well, like Cortez. I feel like you and I were definitely on him quite a bit when it came to like strikeout props and things like that. We kind of touched on the Jays, but they're second on that board in the win total and plus 220. And what I liked from the Jays was that, I mean, I do like their rotation a little, certainly, but they got some lefty bats in their lineup now, right? Varsho, Brendan Belt. Say what you want about Belt. Say what you want about Kevin Kiermaier, but it was just like such a heavy right-handed lineup. It just felt like they needed to sprinkle in some lefties. Alek Manoah, Kevin Gossman, Jose Barrios, we've picked on quite a bit since you and I have been chopping it up. Chris Bassett, and then Kikuchi's another guy that I just really don't care for that much as a real-life pitcher, but he shows some flashes, I suppose. But that rotation's pretty solid, man. Like if Barrios can kind of find his game a little bit, it's a decent 4. You agree?
No, I think you nailed it there with Barrios. I think he pitched a little bit better towards the end of the year last year. Don't really know what to expect from him, but even around an ERA around 4.2, 4.3, I think they'd be pleased with. And coming from your number 4, like, that's pretty great. I do love the Bassett signing, and you nailed it, man. They were so righty heavy last year that it really made problems for their lineup, and now they could easily go with 3 or 4 lefties in that lineup when they're facing a righty. And hey, I know our buddy Vlad Sedler's a big Brandon Belt guy. It's kind of hard not to be. I love the guy too, the captain. Yeah. I like that move too, man. DH, pencil him in there versus the righties if he can just stay healthy. I really like the kind of the under the radar moves that the Blue Jays have made this year, and also they moved some of the fences in. I think they also might have made the walls a little higher. I'm still need to dig into that a little bit more, but we should see a little bit more offense from guys like Matt Chapman as well, especially now he's 2 years removed from the hip injury, so he's a guy I really like as well.
ton of power up and down their lineup, like Springer, Bichette, Vlad, obviously. They got Varsho for 29 home runs, Chapman for 31. So like there's a lot of power up and down their lineup. I really do feel like even, Belt, if he can stay healthy here and there, just having that lefty sprinkled in is really key. I guess the Rays, like what do you make of this team? Like everyone just always, it's the same deal, right? Nobody really gives them any credit for the Rays, but at the end of the day, like I said in the last block, they just always seem to be there, Dream.
I feel like I've been saying this every year now for the last 2 or 3 years. I love their pitching, right? They're going to have another great bullpen. McClanahan, great last year. I know he didn't get that Cy Young for us, but it was pretty close. And, they'll have Glass now for at least, 120, 140 innings, something in that range. They went out and signed Eflin, another guy that I like. And, Jeffrey Springs at the bottom of that rotation is actually a guy that I wrote up in Vlad Sedler's fantasy guide. I rode him whenever they posted his K props at about 3.5 or 4.5. It took a while for those to adjust. So I love their pitching. It's just the offense, man. I feel like they'd probably be a playoff team with like a slightly better than league average offense. But again, that's not something you can necessarily bank on. I think it pretty much comes down to Wander Franco. If he's the player that they expect him to be and he lives up to that talent, at least starts showing a lot of it, then yeah, I do think you can pencil them in for the playoffs. But if their offense is kind of where it was last year, I don't think they can get it done.
I know I'm not crazy about their offense, and that's why I don't really feel like they're a legitimate contender. But the rotation of the bullpen, to your point, hopefully McClanahan can stay healthy. They got him for 181 innings there, over 200 strikeouts. Guy's an absolute baller, man. He's
and the lineup is a little bit like we were talking about with the Giants, right? It's like a lot of like platoon guys. So it's also hard for me to project when you're looking at their bench and their guys now, but. Again, I think it comes down to their offense.
Let's take a look at those two bottom teams. Of course, long shots to win the AL East. I'm surprised, dude, that the Red Sox actually are just, one more win. I know it's just one more win, but I actually like this O's team a little bit better than Boston. But what's your thoughts on the Red Sox? Of course, they lost Xander, which we touched on. They did lock up Rafael Devers. They brought in Justin Turner. Masataka, of course, that they signed. He's potentially going to lead off for them. Chris Sale, Kluber. Remember James Paxton, Canadian boy, in the rotation as of now. Hopefully he can stay healthy. You mentioned the bullpen, right? Kenley Jansen, Chris Martin. They do have some arms inside that bullpen for sure. A better team than Baltimore, though? I
think I don't know if better. They're probably pretty close, as you can see by the numbers there. Yeah. You just don't know, again, what they're going to get out of that rotation, right? Like Whitlock, Paxton, and Sale. I just can't. I have a hard time projecting the number of innings they're going to get out of those arms. And again, I brought this up. I'll bring this up with the Orioles as well, but I think they'd be pretty wise to do a couple of piggybacking starts there as well. There's a couple, like, why not Paxton and Whitlock, or even Whitlock and Sale? I kind of like the Kluber move. He'll eat a bunch of innings for them. And, we talked about the rule changes with scheduling. I want to say I read that Pivetta had a ERA of over 7, I think, first the Blue Jays and the Yankees.
Oh, he got rocked against the Jays and Yankees all year.
Right. And then if you look at his ERA outside the division, I think it was below 3 in the 2.7 range. So that'll help him a decent amount. I don't know. The joke I was making pretty much most of the offseason is like, it looks like the Red Sox kind of built their team to lose a bunch of games 2-1 and 3-1 with that great bullpen. Again, we said this a couple times. The bottom of their lineup isn't that great. Now it looks a little bit better with Duvall in there, with Turner. Those are professional hitters. I do expect Devers to probably get close to 40 home runs. He was a guy that I was had my eye on, thought had a little bit of value when we were looking at the MVP or the what were we talking about here? I guess the MVP odds.
The MVP odds, yeah.
I'm more gonna focus on waiting for his home run prop to kind of see what that's at, and I will probably end up on the over there. I love Cassis, who play first base for them. I think he has a great eye, great OBP. He's a guy that I really like. I think he'll perform pretty well, but I just don't think this lineup is going to be that consistent.
And I like Cassis as well. They got a couple of young players that we're going to see, right? Get some full-time roles for them this year. And we will dive into home run props, and we'll do the same thing we did last year with some home run leaders, take some long shots. So there's usually some sneaky good odds there. Like remember Jordan Alvarez was like 25-1 to lead the American League in home runs. And I know we missed a little bit of time, but this is a guy that's, a good power hitter that had long odds like that. Pretty solid. All right, Baltimore, your O's. We got a couple different boards here, Quan, if you want to roll through them. So you see the 76.5, 25.1. We also have a team board with some fantasy options. And then we have this one here, 25-1, as I mentioned, like longer shots. But we're going to do this with all the teams, 71 World Series and 35-1. Can we transition over to the fantasy assets? So I took this data from the last 4 weeks, high stakes drafts over at NFBC. I got them in order here of where they're getting drafted. Cedric Mullins up at the top. Adley, of course, like a top 4 catcher. You see C4. He's going as like on average as the 60th pick, and the catcher 4 off the board. Reliever Batista in there as well. Gunnar Henderson, who is favored to win the AL Rookie of the Year. You can bring that up at any time if you want to as well. You're looking at this board. Man, there's the other board, there's some reasons to be excited about Baltimore. Dream, talk to me about your O's. What do you expect this year? What do you expect from some of those kids and some of those names you saw on the board? Would they be fantasy targets for you in drafts?
I don't know. Like I don't do too much fantasy. I usually have only one redraft. I do think the Orioles are better than they were last year, and I still kind of think their ceiling is kind of where it was last year. I know a lot of people were disappointed they didn't spend money in free agency, which I get. It would have been nice for them to sign, one of those guys. I'd probably be a little bit more optimistic at that point. But I mean, like Adam Frazier's an upgrade over Odor. I know it's not a huge upgrade. And then I do think Kyle Gibson is an upgrade over Jordan Lyles. Now, people laugh when the Orioles sign these guys and they're penciled in as their number 1 and number 2 starters. Lyles had a 3.7 FIP at home at Camden. I think it was right around there versus righties as well. He got rocked versus lefties and rocked on the road. But Baltimore's like a pretty good place for guys to pitch that have home run issues, and that's pretty much how you can label Kyle Gibson, whose slider looked great at the end of last year. I saw some numbers about some people breaking that down. So I do think Gibson will probably have an ERA around 4, if not below 4. The bullpen will be lights out. I mean, the O's, like, I think you can pretty much expect them now to get the most out of guys. Even another guy like Cole Irvin kind of fits that mold as well. I just don't really see them, I guess, taking the next step this year. I kind of expect more of the same of what we saw last year, especially in the second half.
Yeah, but you're right. The rotation in the bullpen did improve. I know the park dimensions kind of helped that as well. I know a lot of people, myself included, dude, I did laugh at the Jordan Lyles signing, but he was good. Like I was just kept seeing like, wow, this guy again, Jordan Lyles at home. He's been really, really good. The NFBC over the last 4 weeks, the average draft position. Man, Gunner's getting some steam. As you see here, he's the 8th third baseman off the board. He's a top 100 pick. We saw a little bit from him last year, 34 games, 4 bombs, just the 1 stolen base in AAA in 22. Actually went through AA and AAA in 2022. I mean, power speed combo, 19 homers combined in AA, AAA, 22 stolen bases. The projections are all over the place, but did you see the one from Zips? 24 bombs, 100 runs, 90 RBI, 14 ribbies, hitting 260. That's pretty good. As you transition over to the rookie AL odds, of course, he is the favorite. Dude, if he has a season like that, he's winning the award. Talk to me about this kid, man.
I mean, yeah, this is pretty much his award to lose. And I had not noticed those Zips projections that have him, as a 5-win player. I mean, Steamer still has him as a 4.1, which I think is probably a little more accurate to what we can expect from him. 20 home runs, like you said, and a solid on base. I bet a little bit here when I think it was Bookmaker posted these at plus 450. It wasn't very much. Those numbers actually moved rather quickly. And it's interesting how much some of these numbers have moved in less than a week. I know Oscar Colas, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Mm-hmm. But yeah, somebody told me to bet him when he was at 45 or 44-1. So that one's moved significantly. I think he'll have a chance to win the White Sox right field job. But at this point, I don't love Gunnar at 3-1. If you can get something maybe a little bit closer to 4-1, that might still be a small bet. But I'm not really loving the rest of this board. And we see Grayson up there as well. I don't think he's gonna probably get enough innings to win the award. I think they're gonna be pretty careful with him. You saw how they handled Tyler Wells last year, or if you didn't, they kind of let him go 3 to 4 innings his first handful of starts. So instead of shutting a guy down for the last 2 months, they just want to kind of limit their workload and keep them in the rotation throughout the season with a couple IL breaks here and there. But I'm kind of expecting more of the same with Grayson Rodriguez as well.
I agree. Grayson and Hunter Brown, I think they're both traps. I think like they're really going to be really good pitchers, but I don't think either guy, like even Hunter Brown, I don't even think he's in the rotation right now. I'm going to be cautious with these guys. I don't think they're going to have enough innings. I do think it's Gunnar's award to lose, and I agree 3-1 may not, it's not all that appealing. I think if there is a long shot, it's Masataka here at 10-1 as another guy. We'll see how he transitions coming over to North America to play baseball, but a good eye, good contact. I don't think he's got a ton of power, but, lead off potentially with a Red Sox lineup that does have some interesting bats behind him. And a lot of projections have him as like a 300 hitter. Again, slash line 302, 380, 484. Like that's pretty solid for a rookie bat. If they can flirt with a 300 average, I think they'll kind of hang around, but there's definitely a higher ceiling there with Gunnar. Appreciate you, Dream. This is awesome.